further study of GUIs. In the first week we had a look at how we put them together, what the components of the GUIs are, and that's what we're doing this week, and we're just going to go through some more examples in order to help you get through the labs where we ask you to construct your own GUIs. So the best way to see this is, I think, just to watch some examples of GUIs being built. So if you look here, we have a function that we came across earlier in the course, okay? So we have the electric E and the magnetic H fields as a function of these parameters, and I've put them together into a single function, okay? Now what I want to do now is make a GUI that allows me to vary the amplitude A, the attenuation little a, the frequency W, the phase P, and over a period of time from 0 to T. And I want to put this together into a GUI, and so that's what we'll do in this first video. So if we see we've got fields, this is one I've previously made earlier, so I might have a look at that in the future. But to get started, let's launch guide. Okay, so when we launch guide, this is how we build our GUIs with Matlab. And what comes up is we can open an existing one, alright, or there's options. Usually we just click the blank one and we make sure we save it with an appropriate name. Alright, and that's in our current directory. If I just fix up this window so it fits to my screen capture size. Okay, so what Matlab has produced is a predefined space. Okay, and it's also made a bunch of code. Alright, as you should remember from the first week, the first thing that we need to put together in our GUI before we start adding code are the objects. Okay, so a GUI, graphical user interface, is made up of multiple objects, and the function of the GUI is about how we interact with the objects. So first things first, if I want to visualize these electric fields and whatever, I probably want a graph. Okay, so if I just make this a little bigger, just to make it nice and flush with the squares, just to make it look nice. Okay, so that's 3 high. If I just move that up a little bit. So this is our axes. Let's resize this. I've been playing with it, so it went to full screen. But if I just bring this down now, we see all the properties of our objects. Okay, and that's the thing you need to remember. Each object has a set of properties, and it's how we change these properties that affects how the GUI runs. And one of the main properties that we need to change, okay, is the tag, and that's how we identify it. So I'm going to call this one ePlot. Okay, and I'm going to make the units normalized. Okay, if I save that now, and what I should have done is go into here to go to Tools, GUI Options, and the first thing you should do is check these options and make sure they match up with what you want. Okay, so we want to generate the figure file and the Matlab file. Alright, I'm going to make it proportional. Okay, so what we need to do now is change the units from characters, alright, to normalized. Okay, so now I've changed the units to normalized so that, because I want my window to be proportional, what I mean by that is if I run this, bring it down, I can resize this. Okay, I can resize it, and the objects, their size is proportional. to some value of the window, okay? And I've chosen to use normalized units, so that means that the width of this is from 0 to 1, the height is from 0 to 1, okay? So you'll see down here the current point is, if you just look down here, you'll see when I move the cursor, the current point is pretty much gets towards 0. And up here, the current point is a large number. So it starts from 0, 0, 1, 0 is the coordinate, 1, 1, 0, 1. Okay. So that's what the units are. So I'm just going to copy this guy over. So now we have two plots for our two fields. So I've got to change the tag, so H plot. Okay, and I just want to check the units to make sure they are normalized, so that's cool. Okay, so what I want to do now, if I just save that, make sure everything's still doing its thing, I can resize it, and that's cool. So now what I need to do is put in some sort of user interaction, okay? And now what I want with that is some way to change the electric and the magnetic fields, okay? So simply, let's just say we want a way to vary the amplitude. And that's in volts per meter for the electric field. Okay. It's a text item, it's a text object. And the tag, let's say, is amp. Let's be consistent, amp label. Okay. Now let's make an edit box to go with that guy. I'll just make that a bit bigger. Make that a bit bigger. Right. Now, edit text. I'm just going to make that empty to start with. It's an edit object, and the tag, the unique identifier, I'm going to say is amp edit. Okay, so we need to give these useful tags because we need to remember it later on when we are constructing things. So I've saved the GUI, and Matlab has nicely produced some automatically generated functions, okay? And as you should remember from our first week on GUIs, the main function that we're concerned about is the callback, and that governs how whatever the user does with the GUI, it governs how they're going to see some results out of that. Alright? In this video, I won't look at the callbacks, I just want to look at building the actual GUI. I should check the units on all of these guys, so it's normalized. Normalized, okay. So let's put a slider in as well to represent that. So this slider has normalized units, no string, and it is amp slider. Okay, that's the tag. So this is the user input for our amplitude. I'm just going to move this up here. Okay. Now what we can do is we can select what we want and produce an alignment. Okay. Now it's good to do this at the start before you get too much into your code. That way the visual aspects of your GUI are looking good before you start hacking away into the code. So let's just look at the let's just select these two. Look at the alignment. Alright. We just want to make sure it's vertically aligned. Okay, so this one has been straightened up. Okay, now that's nice and straight. I'll just move that guy up under there. Save it, and it added the code and whatnot for this slider. So now we have amplitude. What other sort of input do we have? We've got amplitude, we need some stuff, the attenuation, the frequency, the phase, and the time. So for this one we want to change attenuation, and the label is at label. So that's the tag. Okay, all of this is fairly repetitive stuff. So the attenuation edit. Okay, the slider. Attenuation slider. So you can see where I'm going with this. Okay, we just need to go through and ensure that the GUI has been constructed with appropriate tags. You need to ensure that the names that you give your tags are logical to you, okay, because you need to remember what you have given it. You need to change this. So So once you have constructed the GUI to look the way you want, to have the user input that you want, okay, you need to go through, update the tags, and it's boring, repetitive, but you must do it, okay. And you see now we've added a bunch of input capability to our GUI, and Matlab, being the friendly guide, has created all these functions. So the amplitude edit has a callback, a creation function, as well as the slider now. Okay, so now we're going to come back, look at this code, so we can get something going for this GUI. Okay, so now it looks the way we want. We'll come back later and we'll try and get the code going.